All right, everybody. We are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. Now, remember, I still don't know what episode we're on. I just continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. Now, hit that like, subscribe, comment button down below so we can have this thing continue to grow and continue to bring on cool guests from all over the world. I've got another special guest here with me today. I got Coach Steg. He's an assistant strength and conditioning coach at the University of Pittsburgh. Coach, thank you and welcome to the Coach's Compass.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, the first question I always like to start off with, and I would say it's a fairly easy one, but would you want to be coached by you?
Would I want to be coached by me? Man, I've never been asked that question before. I love it. I think I definitely would, and I feel like I have to say that humbly. And it kind of goes back to like that maybe some thank yous that I've got from former athletes, and that they just appreciated my approach to developing them as an athlete, and also just like treating them as a human should be treated. So I think from multiple angles, I would love to have been coached by myself. And alongside that, I think it might be the approach, not from just being a person, but a coach that brings some intensity, but also is very realistic and practical with the application and like the timing of all of those things. I think I would definitely want to be coached and pushed by myself.
You don't have to say it humbly, Coach. You can go ahead and say it confident that you would definitely want to be coached by yourself. You know what I mean? Because I mean, that's a piece in the books that they don't teach us, right? Is that human touch, that personal feel of when athletes coming to the gym is that, hey, like they want to be heard and be seen like a real person before we just kind of throw them into the program. What is the truth in the strength conditioning world that most coaches aren't ready to hear yet?
The truth in the strength and conditioning world. Oh man, I feel like this could be split both ways and may not be as applicable to the different directions that I'm about to say. But I think a truth that some strength coaches might not want to hear is that your job. Some athletes could definitely make it without you doing your job for them, and I mean that in a sense that like if you're at a extremely high level program with athletes that are the best that they do in the country, and like that's why they're there, whether they've had a strength coach or not in the past, they could probably have have somebody out of an undergrad program come run them in the weight room and like probably still be an All-American. And that's an extreme there, but I think maybe on the lower end, you might find the opposite of that, to where like some underdeveloped athletes that are just untapped potential would absolutely need you, and like be able to take advantage of what you provide for them, and that would be what takes them to the next level. So I think that might be a harder truth for some more than others.
I mean, I think it's a pretty hard truth for all of us when we kind of first get into this field, because we feel like we know everything, right? We've learned everything from the textbook, right? And we've got the best program to put these athletes through, and we're going to take them to new levels. Like they came in and they were good, but we're about to make them elite by the time they leave us in these 4 years. How hard was it for you to kind of get that humble understanding of, hey, I don't know it all, and like some of these athletes, like they're just genetically gifted. So like what I'm doing is really just helping them continue to perform at that high level.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, for sure. I think what I'm asking is, how hard was it to kind of humble yourself and understand that what you do at the personal level is way more important than actually what you're writing down on those pieces of paper? Because some of these athletes, like you said, already elite. Like there's nothing more that we can do with them, right? Like you're really just kind of helping them stay at that level. How much of it, how long did it take you to actually get to that understanding of that?
Yeah, I think it it took a little bit more or less time at some different places that I was at. So I started my career at a private facility working with athletes that ranged in age from like 8 years old to professional athletes that I wasn't programming for, but I was having a hand implementing their program by the other coaches that actually wrote it. That kind of changed going into the college setting, and then going to, while I was at this private sector place, working with a youth soccer team, or a few youth soccer teams. And I think you get a feel very early on in who you're working with, like guys that already have routines, they already know what works for them. They've they've been on an upward trajectory just based on what they've been doing, and then you step into a world where you're working with people that have no experience, have had no routine in the past, like don't really know what works for them, and then you just have these like light bulb moments left and right, and then you have these progress like checkpoints along the way to where it's like, okay, what I'm doing is actually making a difference. And I mean, that could be countered to say that like working with younger athletes, they're just like they're maturing because that's what happens biologically at their age. But yeah, it's different. I think along, at least for myself, it's been different along the way working with different populations. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what was that transition like going from the private sector into the college sector? Because I think that's a part that, coaches make a huge jump, right? So it's a completely different schedule, right? And you got to kind of take what you're given, when you're at the
definitely.
private sector, who to work with. Whereas the college sector, majority of the time, most of the athletes that are coming in want to be there. Whereas sometimes there's a little bit of convincing that you got to do in the private sector.
Yeah, it's funny how there's so many similarities. Like doing a number of the same movements to like if you're working with these other like random kids in an age group class versus a college athlete, like you're probably squatting for very similar reasons, or you're probably doing these like plyo variations for very similar reasons. But the biggest transition for me was having to go from just working with whether it was in the building with random groups of athletes and then just communicating to their parents, like, hey, this is what we've seen change over the last 4 weeks. This is what I would suggest this kid keep doing or whatever. And then it shifted to me working with a soccer club that happened to be a partnership through where I was working to where okay now I'm working with all of the same people on a regular basis, which is awesome, and I'm also collaborating with a head coach, which is cool because like that's who's responsible for me and those kids, and that's kind of like who I answer to now. And then getting into the college world, one, just way more athletes in general, working on like through the NCAA guidelines of like compliance rules of like
All of them. There's
whether
so many.
yeah, right, we had like if it was in the private world it was like oh we have an hour long session, maybe an hour 15, but it's not like a big deal if we run over because like I wanted to take some extra time breaking some stuff down on my phone or an iPad or whatever. But now it's like you have 10:30 to 11:30 hard stop, and I mean at the least if you don't make it known like everything after 11:30 is completely optional. It's voluntary. Just know that I'm not making
Optional.
you do this. Yeah, right. I mean, they're like that's the big change, and then it's collaborating between multiple head coaches, being a part of a staff that's trying to accomplish bigger things, as in a strength and conditioning staff in its own world. And then yeah, just trying to like juggle different people on different programs and being in multiple spots throughout the day, like on time and just trying to maneuver all of that while like for myself, I'm also running the internship program here. So trying to like balance all of these different ducks and keep them in a row. It's a lot at times, but I freaking love it.
Yeah. That's one thing about being in this world. You gotta love the chaos, right? Like if
Yeah,
you don't love
100%.
chaos, that field is just not for you, right? Because you'll get swallowed up by that chaos at any point and just feel like you're drowning. But you
Mhm.
talk about, running that internship program. What are some of the things that you're preaching, to these first year coaches? Because if you remember the first year you got into maybe just a private sector and then jumping into college, what surprised you the most, and what is, like, some of your advice that you're prepping these rookie coaches for?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's been different here than it's been when I did the same thing at Cincinnati. And so, like, when I got here in April, my previous experience running the internship program was at Cincinnati, and we had pretty much all of the interns that we got were undergrad students, not really many seniors that had had much experience elsewhere, maybe a couple kids. Here, been lucky to have almost almost all people, or I guess everyone in this intern group has had experience in the college world or was a former athlete. So, like going back to my first internship, I know that like I was not a college athlete. I studied through a degree program in college that everyone else in my degree went to PT school. So it wasn't necessarily tailored to strength and conditioning. But I do feel like it gave me a hand, like a leg up in when it came to like actually figuring out stuff when it came to the weight room. But anyways, so there's been kind of a shift from having to tailor a lot of the curriculum to like very entry level, base level like X's and O's of periodization and things like that to where this semester I feel like I can actually dig a little deeper into some things that are going to help make these guys more marketable because that's the next step for them, which is hopefully I can get these guys to a GA spot, or hopefully we can get them into a fellow position following this internship. Whereas previously it's been, well, you're still a sophomore. So hopefully we can get you like a foundational understanding of what goes on here. And then, like, if you loved this, hopefully we can help get you to another experience that's going to help you, like, whether it's a private sector or a college place, just like deepen your experience in a different setting. So, yeah, it's the goals have kind of changed a little bit this semester in particular.
Yeah. I mean, with those first year coaches, and I know we all struggle with it, and it's that part of saying no, right? To things that, maybe have been thrown on your plate last minute and you're kind of like, hey, I'm about to walk out the door, like figuring out that work life balance. How do you help, these intern coaches like figure out like that part of like, hey, sometimes you have to say no to things because it's not helping you, but it's also not helping other people because you're spending extra time on it when you don't have the mental or physical capability of doing it in that moment.
Yeah, I've had this talk a couple times with them. Like, you need to figure out what your priority is, and I think for this class of interns, the priority is getting the experience to be able to have all of the coaches that you work with be able to vouch for you when when your time is up here, to be like, yeah, so and so, that's my guy. Great, did a great job for us. Very knowledgeable. Like, this would be a great next step for him. For other people, it's like you need to lock in and just get your base level certification done. Like, you, nothing else really matters for you until you get your CSCS, and then we can talk. So, and I just had a conversation the other day about work life balance with another coach. Like, and I know for myself, and it may not be the same walk everyone else is going through, but I know that when I was in my first internship doing this at the private facility that I was at, I was like obsessed to a level to where I was the first one in the building, probably the last one to leave. And when I went home, I read the CSCS book and I went and like I figured out what Elite FTS was and then just started reading whatever I could find in that revolved around what I was seeing in the building. If it wasn't me asking the coaches those questions, but like to go back to the work life balance, like for some amount of time, you have to prioritize and just become another level obsessed with whatever it is that you're trying to get into. I'm not saying, maybe I am. I'm saying screw your work life balance. Like, it shouldn't be a thing. If you are trying to get your shoe in the door, you should be doing whatever it takes to make it happen. And even if that means like I don't know, I didn't go out this weekend because I was gonna knock out 100 practice questions, or I was going down a rabbit hole of triphasic, or like I don't know. There's gonna be and there should be sacrifices that you make to get where you want to be. I'll just say it that way.
That's the best way to say it. Because I mean, if you want to get somewhere, there's got to be something that you've sacrificed and
Yeah,
let go of in
it's
order to
just
get
like
to that spot
yeah, it's just like what athletes do. It's like the best
all the
ones
time.
probably give up eating junk food. They probably give up. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's staying up late. Maybe it's just like things that aren't going to push them or like move the needle in the right direction. I think for the most successful people on the planet, they would be able to tell you a sacrifice that they've had to make to get where they wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, you've also moved around a few times, right, to a few different cities. What
Huh?
city would you consider the one that kind of shaped you the most? And what did it
Yeah.
teach you about leadership and lifestyle?
I think Texas A&M and College Station when I was a so I did my undergrad program there. I got my degree from there, and then went and worked a couple different places and came back there as a paid intern a few years later. I think the leadership I was under there definitely like molded me into, or I guess made me take the next step up because like I went through grad school, been working with my own teams, had worked for 2 years before taking a step back to go be a volunteer intern and then go the grad school route. So I felt like I had some experience underneath me, and then it came to be becoming a part of a bigger intern group where we had interns that were a part of a master's program, and there were a few of us paid interns, and we were responsible for like training together and um, managing certain groups while there was some staff turnover at the time. And I think that absolutely made me level up and like kind of grow up into being a more confident coach and a more, I don't know, maybe maturing through the strength and conditioning coaches ranks. Maybe I was still an intern, but I think beyond that, so a gear definitely flipped at Texas A&M when I got to Cincinnati, and then maybe like a year and a half into being at Cincinnati, following Texas A&M. I feel like I really just kind of found my groove, and like I got comfortable, like being the guy that was responsible for like 100 athletes, men's swim, women's swim, dive, a 38 kid roster lacrosse team, and I'm running the intern program after a couple years. And so I think that's where I really settled in, and kind of I had a lot of confidence, like this is my calling for sure. But I think maybe it was at Cincinnati where I like really dug in, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, maybe like the next layer of my skin just kind of came off, and that's like where I kind of started to really just become who I was meant to be, I guess, is one way to put it. Yeah.
Love it. Down in Texas A&M, they talk about a 12th man. They don't talk about a 13th man that's out there, holding things down for you guys. But no, that's awesome to hear, kind of figuring out, that this is your calling. This is your passion. This is where you want to be. Outside of coaching, how does Coach Steg take care of himself? Like, how do you pour into your own self so you're able to pour into others?
Man, I mean, the super cliche is like, I love to train. So training is a must, but that's also something you should be doing as a strength coach. But
That part.
yeah, right. So I think, I mean, I love spending time outside. I know that that's like a reset for some people, but it's definitely like just any activity being outside is like, get me there and I'll be there. That's just something I've always enjoyed doing. And I think it might be contradicting, but I feel like just helping athletes is that for me. Like when you create relationships with athletes and the rapport that it's like you have an interaction to where that kid knows you have their back and they believe in you and they trust you and they'll run through a wall for you. I think that, I mean, that's what keeps me going. It's like, not that I'm struggling to keep going, but that's like
Don't sound like it.
you pour all this energy into people, and then when you get it back, it's like you drain your battery a little bit pouring into people. But I feel like when you get that energy right back, you get that love right back. It's like, okay, what's next? You know?
Love it. I mean, that almost sounds like your answer to this next question is beyond the weight room and beyond PRs, beyond scholarships, all that stuff. What do you consider success for yourself?
Man, success for myself. I think, yeah, I feel like a part of that answer definitely is how I would define success for myself. But I think so success for myself, knowing that athletes trust in me enough to like be their leader, and like just creating that relationship with them. I think beyond that, I think success for myself would be fulfilling my potential and just helping other people. And I think right now I'm doing that. And I think down the road, as I keep growing as a coach and like gaining responsibilities and being able to perform my job at a higher level, I think down the road, maybe that looks like maybe I'm not just in charge of interns, but maybe I'm like an assistant director down the road. And now I'm responsible for not only helping interns that want to be coaches in our shoes, but helping coaches do their jobs at a higher level. Not to say that I'm doing my job I'm trying, but maybe that's not my potential. Maybe I'm not at my potential yet, but I think success down the road and like currently is just like helping other people. And I think the next step of that successful journey for me would be helping people to a higher degree. So a coach helping other coaches.
Well, we'll be following along to see if you actually achieve that success. But, Coach, the last one before we get out of here, and this is a hot take question, right? Athletes today need more blank.
Jeez. I feel like athletes today need more commitment. And I feel like when I say that, it's not talking to 100% of athletes out there, but I think maybe it's commitment and it's understanding. It's like being fully committed to your sport that you decided to be a part of, and understanding that the guidelines that you are mandatorily required to participate in to get better at your sport, meaning like when a team goes in season, they're only allowed to the coaching staff's only allowed to require them to be at 20 hours worth of mandatory practices, and that can be a combination of practice, lift, education by some other staff or department member, like things like that. I think more athletes need to be committed and understand that 20 hours is not enough, and this is college athletes only. 20 hours is not enough to develop your capabilities to the level that they should be developed to compete in the league that you're in. So like lacrosse players, you have 3 lifts in a week, 2 conditioning sessions in a week or more. You have X number of hours of practice. You should probably be getting shots up on your own outside of there. Depending on who you are, you probably need another run in the week. Depending who you are, you probably need another lift, or you just need like you need more walkthroughs, like film sessions, like you name it. I think, yeah, I feel like athletes could absolutely need or absolutely use a better understanding of what it truly takes. Because I know there are some box checkers out there, like, yep, I showed up to every practice this week, I got every lift in, I did all of my conditioning, I should be good.
Should
I
be.
should start now. Like I should be a high minute player or whatever. I should be on relays if I'm on the swim team because I did all of the work. But the reality is it's not what it takes. It takes much more than that to be the or reach the kind of success that most people are capable of.
And there's nothing wrong if you are a box checker and that's what you want to do. But the person that's doing the extra and knows what it takes to be committed and understands what it takes to get to that next level, you can't be mad at them for putting in extra work and they're in there on a relay team or they're out there being a starter. That
Yeah.
comes down to, you got to figure out what you need more of and go do it. Otherwise, you're just going to be in the same position you were in before.
Yeah. Champions do extra.
I love it, Coach. Coach, thank you for coming on here and keeping it real, man, and telling us what it's like to go from the private sector to the college sector and the hot take at the end, man. I love it. And Coach, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. That was awesome.
Of course, baby. And we're out.